Redditors who work at cemeteries and graveyards, what strange and scary stuff have you witnessed? In the cemetery mausoleum chapel where I occasionally play the organ for funerals, vandals had broken in the night before a service. They smashed several crypt covers, probably with sledgehammers, exposing the remains of those that had been entombed therein. It was an eerie atmosphere to hold a funeral service that morning with such desecration in plain sight. Shit, I was gonna ask if grave robbing is still a thing. My dad purchased a cemetery when I was in middle school, and I worked for him through high school graduation. I did yard work, mowing, weed eating, flower beds, etc. Aside from the occasional shadows seen out of the corner of my eye, seeing people who turned out to not be there, and hearing strange sounds, the cemetery was actually a quite peaceful place. But the strangest is when you have a burial in the crypts. Basically, you dig down about 4 or 5 feet to expose giant cement doors. You pull the cement doors off and drop down into a little room. These rooms can fit 2 coffins or years and years and years worth of cremated remains. So back in the 50s and 60s, families would buy 1 crypt and the entire fam would be cremated and put in it. Some just put the cremated remains in it and close her up, but others light candles and leave flowers and souvenirs and pictures and shit. It's fucking creepy opening up one of those bad boys after 50 years and finding melted candles and old pictures of the people inside. Plus when you hop down in there you have a weird realization that you are at the same level and completely surrounded by bodies. Worked in a cemetery over the summer during college. One morning I was mowing the grounds and discovered the body of a cat which had been bound and set on fire. We had a late afternoon service once that ran into the evening. It was October, so the sun went down early while I was filling in the grave afterwards. Conveniently none of the lights on the loader tractor worked for some reason. No blown fuses or loose wires or anything, the lights just didn't work. Next day when I reported the issue we went over to the same tractor and the lights worked perfectly fine, and they worked fine the rest of the time I worked there. Despite all the rational reasons there likely are to explain this. Yeah, that's pretty creepy. I don't work at a cemetery, but one of my friends does. Let's call him CJ. One day CJ was at the cemetery and he saw a strange man in the distance. He obviously called the police because the guy looked strange and he would just stare at CJ. This was at maybe at around 11 PM and the police arrived. When the police arrived they caught the man. As it turns out he was one of the serial killers in Florida, and this happened a couple. It still gives me the chills, even though I wasn't a part of it. All we had to do was follow the damn train. I worked security for a nursery for trees and plants, and when they changed owners before my time, the new owners found that the old owners had dug up part of a graveyard. Broken headstones were just piled up next to still standing ones, and so the company puzzled the headstones back together and set them in concrete. All that setup is to tell you that I would be patrolling in a vehicle and I would go past the cemetery and there would be this coyote and a owl just hanging out in the middle of the graveyard looking at me. This happened pretty regularly. TLDR, an owl and coyote would stare at me from a graveyard. That's cute and creepy at the same time. If you liked this video, please leave a like. Or don't, whatever.